Hi class, welcome. Let's start our class with a warm-up activity called Doom Doom Dadam. What is it called? Doom Doom Dadam. Okay? All you have to do is repeat the same tune and do what I do. Here we go. Doom Doom Dadam. Doom Doom Dadam. Oh, for this activity, please stand up. I want you to wake up. Here we go. Doom doom da dum. 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 Good job. Well, let's start it. Okay. The topic for today's class is relative clauses. The book says relative clauses give us more information about the subject in our sentence. One thing that I want to mention is relative clauses are like another subject, like another predicate, like a complete sentence. They are not only words, no, they are pieces of information like complete sentence or like predicates. Okay, let's see. We should have a complete sentence to begin with. Our complete sentence, how do we know it's complete? Because it has a subject, what else? A predicate, and there is a verb in the predicate. From there, are we clear? Good. We start with a complete sentence, but relative clauses add more information to this initial sentence. And the book also says that relative clauses begin with these words that are called relative pronouns. They are who, when, where, which, that, and whose. Here they are. These words are relative pronouns, not relative clauses. Relative pronouns. I'm going to write it here. Relative pronouns. Pronouns. All this. Relative pronouns. And the book also says when we have a subject and a predicate, when we have a sentence and we want to add extra information with a relative clause, that relative clause begins with one of these words. Okay? Can you read this relative pronouns? Who, when, where, whose. Exactly. Okay. Let's go over all the things that we've said before. Relative clauses add more information to the sentence. They add more information. Now we'll learn that there are two types, one and two types of relative clauses. The first type, we call it defining relative clause. And the other one is non-defining relative clause. Let's start with the first one. Defining relative clauses are very important because they give us essential information for the sentence. Essential information. And remember, when something is essential, that means it is super important. So important that if you take this away from the sentence is not clear. It will not make sense. Okay? It will be like incomplete. We're gonna see some examples in a minute. Okay, let's look at the first example. Okay, here we are. It's right here. This is in the form of a question, but it's okay. I got it from the book. Have you met the girl who lives next door? The first thing I will do is identify the relative clause, which is read. The relative clause begins with one of these relative pronouns. So let's take a look. Do you see any of these relative pronouns here? Who, when, where, which, that? Oh, there it is. I'm going to underline the relative clause that begins with the word who. I'm going to make a double underline. There we go. That is a relative clause. How do we find it? Because we know the relative clauses they begin with who, or when, or where, or which, that, or whose. Relative pronouns. Up to there, we're clear, aren't we? Good job. Now, we're talking about defining relative clauses. And we said defining relative clauses are super, super, super important, because if we eliminate that part, if we eliminate defining relative clauses, the sentence is not clear. The sentence does not make sense. So let's take a look at that. Have you met the girl who lives next door? Next door means this is your house. This is your house. And next door means in the house next to yours. Okay? So it says, have you met the girl who lives next door over here? So this relative clause is giving us extra information. Which girl? Ah, the girl who lives next door. But what happens if we leave this out? Erase this part. Do we still have that idea clear who we're talking about? I don't know. Let's read. Have you met the girl? Oh, have you met the girl? Is that clear? Is that complete so you understand? Have you met the girl? Which girl? The girl next door? The girl in Cancun? The girl at school? Which girl? We don't know, because I erased the defining relative clause, and the book said, do not leave it out. No, because that defining relative clause has essential information, super important information. It is necessary. So we need it. Oh, this marker doesn't work well no more. Have you met the girl who lives next door? Ah, now my idea is complete. Ooh, lots of information. Let's relax a little bit. Flee, flee, fly. Flee, fly, mosquito. Oh, no, no, no more mosquito. Itchy, itchy, scratchy, scratchy. Oh, I got one down my backy. Big that big bug done with the bug spray. Psst. Got it? Let's now look at non-defining relative clauses. Okay, remember, defining, we're talking about relative clauses that are defining, and when we say non-defining, we're talking about non-defining relative clauses. Okay, non-defining relative clauses are just the opposite to defining. This can be left out without a problem. The non-defining relative clauses can be eliminated from the original sentence, and the meaning of the sentence will not change. We will still understand the sentence. Let's look at an example. As an example, we have this sentence. Let's read it. The woman who used to be a teacher was great with kids. The first thing we have to identify is the relative clause. Okay, we have a sentence. We said relative clauses begin with one of these words. Who, when, where, which, that, or whose. Back to the sentence. Which relative pronoun can you see in this sentence? Do you see the word whose, that, where, who? Yes, there's the word who. Now, let's underline the relative clause. It starts here. Who used to be a teacher. Yep, up to there. Now, this is an example of non-defining relative clauses. And the rule says we can eliminate this. And if we eliminate this, the sentence will not be difficult to understand. It will still make sense. Let's first read the sentence before I erase things. The woman, the lady, who used to be a teacher in the past, she was a teacher. The woman who used to be a teacher was great with kids. She was nice to kids. We're talking about a woman who was great with kids. That's essentially what the sentence says. Let's see what happens if we eliminate or leave this out. Bye-bye, relative clause. Let's see if it was essential or not. Defining are essential. These are not essential. Let's see. The woman was great with kids. Are we talking about a lady who was great with kids? Yeah. Before, were we talking about a woman who's great with kids? Yeah. So, non-defining relative clauses are not essential. They give us extra information. Oh yeah, this woman was a teacher. Thank you for that information. But it's not essential. How do we know? If we take it off, we can still understand the sentence because the sentence makes sense. Good. Now the last thing we need to know about non-defining relative clauses is they need commas. They need commas before the relative clause and at the end of the relative clause. So we're going to write the clause back. The woman was said who used to be a teacher, to be a teacher. Oops, there. The woman who used to be a teacher, the rule says we need a comma before the relative pronoun and a comma after the relative clause. Two commas, two. One before the relative clause and one after the relative clause. Okay? Good job. Let's go to the book page and do our work. 78. And remember, at this point, that's the page. At this point, things that we don't remember, okay, check the grammar box. Things we don't understand, it's okay. Check the rules, okay? Good. Let's go to page 78 now. Good. Are you all on 78? You are there, aren't you? Good job. Relative clauses. Instructions for activity 1. Circle the relative pronoun that best completes each sentence. Oh, wait a minute. It says, circle the relative pronoun. Are we talking about relative clauses or relative pronouns? Relative pronouns. So you're going to circle who or when or where or which or that or whose. And remember, who refers to people, when refers to time, where refers to places, which refers to when you have option this or this or this, okay? That can refer to people or things. Just remember, which is for non-defining relative clauses, and that is for defining relative clauses. Now, whose shows property. Whose marker is this? Aras. Okay? Good job. Okay, on that first activity we have number 1. It says the event was in honor of Carl, featured a great band. We know where the relative clause starts because that's the blank space. That's what we are going to be looking for the relative pronoun, the start of the relative clause. But let's just pretend we eliminate that part, we leave that out. If we just read, the event featured a great band, is that a clear, complete idea? Yes, it is. So, if we leave the relative clause out and it makes no difference, then we're talking a non-defining relative clause. So, what is the relative pronoun we use for non-defining relative clauses? Which. So that's the answer, number 1, which. For number 2, the iguana was sitting on the branch blended in with the scenery. Who? Are we talking about a person? No. Are we talking about a place? Remember, it's an iguana. Are we talking about, can we use which for non-defining relative clauses or that? That. Correct. The next one, number 3. The man's job had been interrupted. We're talking about a man and we're talking about this man's job. It shows possession. So, which one shows possession? Remember? Whose. The man whose job had been interrupted was quite angry. Okay, so that's the relative pronoun for number 3. And let's go to number 4. I want to go to a place. There is a beach. If we're talking about a place, what's the relative pronoun we're using? Where? Correct. Write it down. Good job. And for the second and last part, it says, these sentences have mistakes. They do not follow the rules you learned for working relative clauses. Circle the mistakes. Again, circle the mistakes. Then rewrite the sentences correctly on the lines. For this last part, there are 3 sentences. You need to read them. Identify the mistakes, what is incorrect, but also you need to check the rules in order to find the mistakes. And then once you find the mistakes, rewrite the sentences, but this time correctly. Okay, I need you to stop the video now, do the work, and I'll see you in a minute. Awesome. If you followed my instructions, you would be done by now. So you finish your class, book work is complete. Good. Don't forget to take picture of pages. What pages was that? Of pages 77 and 78. Send them to teacher's email. Thank you, class. I'll see you later. Enjoy your weekend.